Okay,
I can.
let's get this going. We are rolling on the 30th of June.
What do
Shirley,
you?
Shirley's
What's?
there. Shirley's been there for a few minutes. She's fine. She's waiting
Yeah,
on
I
the
know.
integrator.
I just talked to her. I
Okay.
just talked to her. So what's wrong with you?
No,
What's
no.
the matter with you?
I'm just I'm
What's?
in a foul mood. I hate cardboard. I hate the color green.
Oh, sorry.
I hate I hate nitrogen. I hate everything. So I'll be fine.
Okay.
Just not
And if
sleeping.
I'm included in this select
Oh, you're always at
group,
the
right?
top of the
Yeah.
list. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
You
that's what gets
hate
me out
me.
of bed in the morning is to talk to that miserable cur. But I do have
Bastard.
something before we talk to Shirley.
Okay. Do you want me to
Unless you
look at? Do you want to look at the weather first, or would you?
I actually I have a kudo. I have no I have something I have good news to talk about very briefly. I
Okay,
want to
that's why
give
you're in a foul mood.
I want to give a shout out and a kudos and a thumbs up to Canada Post because I've been howling about this for weeks, and they've posted a video via Radio Canada, and they this is produced by Canada Post, I'm sure, and they're showing a young postal worker there, a carrier, and they're explaining why that patio set you ordered is a month and a half late, and they're going on and explaining and showing you why there are delays. So they get full points from me for being transparent. They're explaining how many millions of parcels they're handling. They're talking about where their distribution centers are. They put a GoPro camera on a cap. This guy gets on my nerves. Philippe Legault. I'm not his biggest fan, but he gets full points for showing up as a spokesperson for Canada Post. And they put a GoPro camera on this young man's cap. You see him interacting with clients, explaining things, why every other door in the warehouse had to be closed for social distancing and all the rest of it. I won't go on. It goes on for 4 minutes. It's on my page. I just wanted to give them a félicitation and a kudos and a happy Canada Day to you, ladies and gentlemen, because this is how you do communications. Transparency sells. Let me know what's going on. I may be pissed, but at least I'll know what's going on. Okay?
All right
UPS
then.
UPS, on the other hand,
They're still in your bad books, are
they
they?
just they. I've received six different emails with six different stories. Yesterday, the supervisor called me to explain the same thing.
Supervisor of what?
I think she was in Manila or something like that. She was a very polite lady. I think she was probably with a ceiling fan. I could hear the ceiling
Uh-huh.
fan in Manila. And she's
Right.
saying, I'm talking to some dorky white guy somewhere up there. And I'm having to explain to this asshole why his package is a month and a half late.
Why don't you take up golf?
And I'm being nice to her, and she says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Funialt, it's been last scanned." I said, I know it was last scanned on the 19th of June, Madame. I know you're just doing your job, but this is not helping." And there's a
And the
pause.
people
There's a
at
pause at the
UPS.
other end of the line. She says it's not helping. And then she says, "Will you give me a good rating?" I said, "Of course I'll give you a good rating. It's not your fault." And she says, "Thank you, Mr. Hunialt," and then she hangs up the phone.
Well, I'm glad you didn't go on about this.
No.
We don't have any time for Shirley,
Have I
so
mentioned that
good
I
night.
hate UPS? Have I mentioned that?
Is there somebody at UPS talking to somebody at FedEx, talking to somebody at
Yeah,
Purolators,
that's
talking
it.
to somebody at Canada?
And
Listen,
my
you get a
my
call from this
picture is
crazy
on the
guy.
wall,
Yeah.
right? My picture's in the lunchroom. No, it's not the
With an
it's not,
albatross sitting.
it's not the lady in Manila. It's not the guy who's driving the truck or working in the plant. It's the whole culture. And this is why I'm so
Oh,
proud of Canada Post for saying, look, times are tough, and this is what's going on here. But don't pretend that things are working perfectly well when they're not. Okay? Thank you.
I
Good
think you
night.
should take. Let's invite Shirley in. I was going to show you the weather, but
Try,
I don't think I
try the
want to.
veal. We're here all week. Oh,
Oh
man.
man. Okay, I love the first 2 minutes of this. Hi, Shirley.
Oh, we get another one of these now. She's trying
Yeah,
to.
yeah. That look.
It's the Janet Torge approach to
Yeah,
connecting via
but she's done
Zoom.
700. Put on your microphone.
Oh, with the background and everything. Oh,
Put on your mic.
Oh,
That's
there
a
we are.
girl.
You
Yeah.
two are old men, aren't you?
We are
I
what?
beg pardon?
You are old men, aren't
Oh,
you?
there you go. And we're off to a
Hey,
flying
what?
start. Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, listen, do you get mail in Calgary? Do you have mail service?
I have one male in Calgary. Oh, you mean do I
Oh,
get?
yeah. 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 Yvonne was just talking about how crappy mail service is for ordering things. And problem is he keeps ordering things.
That's right.
And that's why he's
just
disappointed.
shouldn't be ordering things. That's right.
No, but that's part of what we do because we're consumptive consumers.
We are.
Oh, yeah, I was consumptive. That was in high school.
That was
Yeah.
from smoking.
Yeah, that was something. How are you, darling?
I'm okay. Are we on?
We are.
Yes, we certainly are. So watch your language.
Well, I mean, do you like the moon or like should we go with Bloomingdale's since I'm
Since they're
Yeah.
closing down.
well, I just want to be something to I was going through your podcast and it took
Yeah.
you a hell of a long time to invite me for Christ's sake. And and what's with all these white people? You've got like you
Oh, don't get started on that. I get that every other day too. Not enough women, not enough people of color.
no, there's not,
When's the next little person going to be on?
there's not enough Jews. That's the problem.
Oh, no. We got enough Jewish guests.
Joey Elias was on yesterday.
That's
We had
right.
Shiva. What?
We were sitting shiver with Joey Elias yesterday.
Okay, listen, we're out of time, Cheryl. God.
Okay, thanks. It was great.
Not
To
Do you like the moon or Bloomingdale's? And I want other people on. Okay, we'll do that.
No, but your library, your natural background is quite impressive on its own, actually.
There I am.
Okay,
That's a marijuana farm.
that works too. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
live in Canada and it's legal and I won't get arrested for this picture.
So you teach, you're a sociologist, you're an anthropologist, you're a hematologist, you're an ear, nose, and throat gal. What do you teach at Calgary?
I teach Zoom. That's all I teach is Zoom. We talk about it, we look at it, we're pissed off about it. That's all. But other than the Zoom, I don't know. What do I
Popular culture.
Yeah, I mean, I complain a lot about the government, and that's mostly what I teach. And I complain about white men. That's what I teach. I complain about assholes. Yeah, I teach about how assholes run the world. That's my work. So I'm an anti-capitalist.
Now do you know why we took so long to invite you?
Well, no, there's a lot going on there. Where shall we start?
Yeah.
White men. Okay, let's start with white men.
Oh, was that a prompt?
That's a prompt, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I sleep with one and I'm in love with one, so they're not so bad. But at least
Okay.
he's Jew. He's not quite as boring as other white men.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm a ranter. I talk about youth, and I talk about how society marginalizes youth and old people. And I think since I've become one, I'm a little bit more conscious of that. And the fact that they're the two lost generations that no one wants to listen to, but they're the ones that have the most to say.
And this period of pandemic must have been a period of reckoning, I guess, or has it been for us with respect to older people and youth who have both been suffering quite a bit in this particular situation?
Yeah, I think I'd like to say it's a time of reckoning, but as in most capitalist societies, we move on very quickly. And so anything that is dear or tragic one minute flips very quickly, especially, and I'm kind of I've decided I'm an anti-millennial, and I have birthed millennials, and I do love them, but I think I'm anti them.
Why?
There's a privilege and an assumptive attitude that, you know, we're kind of the saviors. Of course, they haven't done crap, but they talk about it a lot. There's a pomposity, there's a narcissism about it, and it I feel that, and of course they're the ones that are now going to kill the three of us because of the disease. So if they breathe on us, they can now have the power to murder us. So it's kind of, I'm now double anti-millennial.
Well, it's interesting because Will Aiken was on, and Will is 72 and he loves to walk, and he was at LaFontaine Park, and he said all these millennials were out there with no masks on, and he felt as a 71-year-old man that they were looking right through him. He felt
Oh yeah.
terribly old and tossed aside. Now, on the other hand, I've heard millennials say that baby boomers are the biggest, most entitled bunch of blowhards on the planet. So maybe we're looking into a mirror. They look at us and think of pomposity, and we do the same when we look at them.
How about a TV show like remember the old Newlywed Game kind of thing where you have millennials and boomers, and of course the boomers would win everything except for arrogance and snobbery. So
you don't think boomers are arrogant? You don't think boomers are arrogant and snobbish? Oh, I think we become kind of self-satisfied, or were for a while.
We're just right all the time. It's hard to be right all the time.
Okay, well, we've established that.
Okay, yeah. I'm going back to the moon because the marijuana is not giving me the buzz I need.
Well, yeah, but it's not just a picture of it. You got to actually ingest the stuff.
Oh,
that may help. Yeah.
What do you think I was doing at 6 this morning?
Well, I'm glad you're up for this. So the exciting news is you have become a Canadian citizen. This young girl from Baltimore has decided to become a Canadian citizen. Tell me about the dilemma.
Or have you changed your mind since?
No, I didn't. And I'm afraid if citizenship dudes from Canada hear this, I could lose it. So this is how much I trust you guys. But I took, I've been here almost over half my life. I've been here. My first husband is a Canadian. My kids are Canadian. I've birthed Canadians, and at $5 a pop for a private room for a week, it's a good deal. But it got to the point that I really thought, this is crazy. I really want to be a Canadian, and I just was too lazy. And so I had to do a deep examination of why I didn't want to be a Canadian. And David will have memories of maybe a decade ago when we had this conversation when there was a royal visit to Quebec. And I hate the monarchy. I freaking hate it. I hate everything about it. I kind of hate it almost worse than religion.
Like a good American. Like a good American.
Just like a good anti-monarchist.
Okay.
And I don't like
because the Americans actually love the monarchy. They fought a war to get away from them, but they're the biggest sucks when the Queen walks into town in the world.
They are queen sucks. Absolutely, I agree. And so I had to come up with this, and I had to get through it. I worked through it, got into my citizenship, and then I went to the little citizenship thing, and I had solved my dilemma. And my only dilemma then became, is it going to be Queen Latifah or Freddie Mercury that I'm going to...
as your royalty?
Yes. So we're all standing there together doing our little oathy thing. And I just said...
Hey, Dave, don't make fun. That's very important for you as a Canadian. That and the Tim Hortons coffee afterwards.
And I pledged to Queen Latifah.
I like.
God,
that would have been my choice too. Okay.
And so I'm okay. But if they hear this, I'm out of here. But I'll tell you, when this pandemic thing started, I was in New York with my partner, and there were never any two faster Jews in the world. The exodus was slow. We were out of there. We didn't pack. We just called somebody, pack up our stuff, we're in Canada. And we flew across that border as quickly as light. And I am so glad to be here. I really am.
Did you have a written test? Was there actually a written test that they give you?
There is, David.
Or is it just sort of a parallel parking test?
No, when there is a hard test, like it even asks hard questions, like the guys, they're not presidents. I think they're prime ministers. They ask.
There we go. And we're off to a flying start.
Yeah, I think this guy was one, or he was my postman. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna
But,
be great.
but
A, Johnny McDonald. B, or C, apologize for not owing A or B.
Or D, Orson Bean. Yeah.
when you're old, they have a forgiveness clause. And so you don't have to take a test if you are doddering and drooling.
Oh.
So Calvin Coolidge is the 7th Prime Minister of Canada. Wonderful. God.
No, no, no.
Exactly. So, but I am so glad to be here. And I have, I have a place here, and it's actually on campus. And my partner thought I was a dorm mom when we first got when they give it to you, you take it, But
How are things?
So,
I'm sorry. Go. How are things in Alberta in general? How are things in Calgary?
they're safe and wonderful, but we have a buffoon little midget. Oh, can I say midget? If he's not a midget, I think
it's too late.
Yeah, say small. Yeah, okay.
This horrible little fat pig, and he's not Doug Ford, and he's not Donald Trump, or he's not Boris Johnson. So that's kind of amazing.
Who are you talking about? Jason Kenney?
No,
Yeah.
Calvin Coolidge.
No, just.
Well, I like your mayor.
Is that-
Yeah, but what is a mayor? A mayor is a nothing. He's just smiles. This guy, this Kenny, he's
the premier. Okay.
he's insane.
Hmm.
And it's and I'll give you a ironic plug. He just now declared that there never were Indigenous, First Nations, or Métis residential homes, that was a lie from the left.
No.
And I swear to God, in 1 week, I have just produced and directed a film with a First Nations guy who was in a residential home. So
What?
I'm,
Okay, so Jason Kenney is well past Francois Legault. I thought Francois was pretty damn dumb with his
No,
there's
I
no
think
systemic,
Jason
but
is.
denying there's an oh
Dropped on
my
his head. Dropped on his head.
God.
Well, tell us
Yeah.
about this film then, Shirley.
Oh, it's cool. It's called Teepee in the Room, and it's we went out to the Kainai Res, where ironically, many years ago, I lived in that area, and I worked with people there for a very long time, and then the circle of life brought me back, and I went out with my terrific filmmaker, and he filmed the people. We have a grandfather and a youth, a granddaughter, and their juxtaposition of their lives as First Nations people, and mostly focusing on Grandpa, because he is an elder now, and he was in a residential school at 6, and he was there until he ran away in his late teens. And so, and then the granddaughter kind of does a response on another interview, and it's just amazing. And working here, one of the greatest things about Alberta is the First Nations, Métis, and Indigenous population. It's so large, and there's so much music and art and brilliance that comes. And we have at University of Calgary, we have quite a few First Nations elders we work with as consultants, or as research partners, or as people sitting on committees with us. So we're really lucky to have that as well.
Where are you going to be able to see this film? Or is there going to be
Yeah, I'll send a link. It's going to be on Vimeo for a while. We're probably just going to sort of we don't want, it's not for money, it's to make a point. But we were making a point, and then just last week, hey, did you ever you saw Wizard of Oz? You remember the little
couple of times?
The little fat leader of the Munchkins?
Yeah.
That's
Jason Kenney?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The mayor.
I can't stop today.
Wait a minute. Wait, is somebody going to show this to the premier? I can't believe how unbelievably clueless that line
Well,
is.
yes, you can.
Has there been blowback? Has somebody said, "Hey, fella"?
It's quiet, it's polite, quiet. Canadian CTV News, today, Premier Kenney, and no one's like astounded, no one's screaming. It's
Well,
like
that's it. Nobody's surprised. No.
No,
What about the NDP leader? Isn't she screaming at him, or?
No, because she's hoping she'll end up getting back her seat. So she has to be careful. I liked her until she became, I take her back in a second. But, the first thing she did when she became premier was cut education. So
yeah, what's her name again? I liked her when I first saw her
Rachel.
too. Rachel. Yeah.
Notley. The
Yeah.
problem, Alberta's great-ish. It's not pretty, except unless you're in the Rockies. If you're in the Rockies, there's no more beautiful place on earth. But when you come back down to this earth on the plains, it's pretty dreary, and the people are pretty dreary. You know how you make fun of Canadians? Albertans are Canadians times 10. Canadians 3.0, Canadians on speed. They are so rigid, so anal, so white, so religious, so rifles with trucks in the back.
Well, that sounds to a lot of Canadians like Americans.
South. That's American, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's U.S. North. I mean, Montana,
Yeah.
we got the stripe right from Montana. Everything is affected. In Alberta, everything is affected by the U.S.
Yeah. I guess the best part of being a Canadian now is you can be really smug about Americans.
I can be smug that I'm here. Yes. And
You have to be careful when you go home.
I'm just staying here forever. David is an American. He's a Jew, though, by the way, so that gives him a bit more prop, in my opinion. But we got over the border so fast, and it was like literally almost closed behind us. So we're good.
So you drove up from Butte, and they said bye.
No, we were in New York City.
I know. Yeah, I was just making that north-south connection.
He's an American, but he's Jewish, so that's okay. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's tolerable.
Okay.
I see. And the Albertans meet him, and they say, "You're what?
You're not from here, are you?"
Oh, with his nose, you don't have to ask.
Is he a New Yorker?
He's as New York as they come. He says coffee, and he says cauliflower. It's very cute.
Coffee.
Now, what does he think of Calgary? What does he think of Alberta?
Yeah, that must be quite the
Culture
speaking of the
shock.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I'd like to get a schmear, please. Yeah, so some guy tries to run him over in a truck.
But he's probably used to that.
I get a schmear every year. I think he loves it. Actually, he's intrigued by it. He loves it. The trucks are very disconcerting, yes, because you make jokes about an F-150. We have F-450s here, and on the highway we see these trucks that have wheels about 4 stories high. I'm not exaggerating. That are going up to Fort McMurray.
Yeah, to the sand. Yeah.
It's very overwhelming, but he loves it. He's very happy to be here. The niceness is a little weird. Like, how can this many people be nice all the time?
Oh, I see. Oh, the niceness of those who surround him is disturbing.
Only Americans would find niceness a little troubling.
And the word sorry. I mean, everyone's sorry all the time, but they're not.
That's right. That's very Canadian. It's
Yes, that's true. The New York version of that is fuck off.
That's right. Yeah.
Get over yourself.
It's like racism in this country. It's just under the surface there. Right?
Yeah, very polite, but it's there, boy. It's really there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you travel a lot, and I think for the most part you enjoy it. A lot of it's for business, but you've been to some fascinating places. How are you feeling in the midst of this pandemic where you really can't go anywhere?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I was on my way to I had a 3-month gig in Rome as a visiting scholar and a month in Colombia as a visiting scholar. And I had all this stuff lined up. And David had never been to Thailand, and I do a lot of work in Thailand. And so that was sort of in my mind. And now it's been, almost 4 months we've been here. And honest truth, only between us, I don't miss travel at all. In fact,
Good.
I don't. Delta sent me a blinking, happy dance thing saying, we've extended your diamond status till 2022, and I'm just like, I don't want to go anywhere. And I honestly, we drove across Ontario, which no one ever does. They always go down on the States, but we were too scared we'd get arrested, and so
Jailed in Michigan.
we had we had the weed and the oil, and we had an illegal American in the car, and so we came up through Canada, and I just driving across Ontario in good weather. This was in March, so there was snow, but it was beautiful. It's just freaking gorgeous.
Yeah,
It is.
Yep, sure.
Well, Yvonne's from up that way.
Where are you from, Yvonne?
Yvonne's from Sudbury.
I'm sorry, I'm from Sudbury, Ontario.
Oh, we slept there.
Okay.
And it's fabulous. And so I'm, if I have to see my kids in Hamilton, I'm just going to go across Canada. And maybe I'll get on a plane again, but I don't want to die of this stupid, dumbass thing. And I don't want to be with other people. And I hate them all because most of them don't have masks.
Yep.
And I just want to be left alone. And you know what? I'm so blessed to have traveled all over. I'm really happy. I'm happy to not. And I know I'm not used to, usually you're not normally hear me being happy and calm. This is me calm, by the way.
Yeah,
but
it's really something to see when she's not.
Well,
I just, all of a sudden I get a call from Lansing, Michigan. Hi, Dave, it's Shirley. Can you bail me out? You got to drive down to Lansing, Michigan. I've been busted driving a Mercedes-Benz smart car. What's is it Steinberg? Is that the name? Steinberg?
all right, Shirley, we were kidding around at the beginning, but can you explain exactly what you teach at University of Calgary?
I am the research professor of critical youth studies. The word critical is a secret sign, meaning very left, and very deconstructive, and basically very pissed off most of the time. And I teach about the culture of youth, and basically cultures. I do a huge amount of work with migrants and refugees, so I do a lot of crossover. But I talk a lot about media, as David mentioned, popular culture, and honestly, the terrifying influence that we have allowed media to give us because we have only, and ironically, I don't have a lot of good to say about the Quebec school systems. In fact, I have only one thing good to say about it, and that is that it is mandated at university level for teacher education students to have a course in media literacy. And there's no states, no other provinces that actually have a required course on having to understand the media. And it is a terrifying thing that we're in two countries in North America that really have no ability to consume and throw out what they don't like. Like, we eat something and it's crappy, we spit it out. We buy something that it tears, we complain about it. But when it comes to the media, we suck it up it is a saturation. Now, the Canadian media has an attempt to still look like news, and it's good. It's okay, I'm good with that. Although when you walk into, I remember going to see Dave once, and it was after the big firings at CBC and or layoffs, and you walked in the building, and it was hard to find his office because it was like islands of empty desks.
Yeah.
So Canada has decimated the media. But what I do like is that there's an attempt by the reporters, there's investigation, there's research, there's commentary that's not hysterical. On the other hand, and so I talk about that, and I look and I analyze that. I analyze the manner in which it's done, and this has been 3 months of gold as far as hysteria.
I was going to ask about that. Sure.
Oh,
This has been a laboratory, I'm sure.
It is. I mean, you look at Don Lemon on CNBC or CBC or CNN and Chris Cuomo, who are, undressing daily, screaming, yelling, and they're ire, while I agree with most of it, is so hysterically over the top, it's almost hard to consume. And then you watch the the blonde bimbos on the other channel owned by Murdoch, and you're inundated without any kind of way in which to understand, read, and not read Wikipedia. And then how do you know what you're reading is appropriate?
Well,
And
they
so
give no context, do they, Shirley? It's no context. It's all advocacy and yelling.
and
Kidding aside, I've had at least 2 or 3 friends this week, and I'll use the phrase I had to talk down. One of them was watching CNN, which isn't the worst, but that's not saying much. And several others were watching it all day. And I said to a certain point, you got to turn off the set, because you're not being educated, you are not being enlightened, you are just being enervated.
Exactly.
Or not being informed.
Exactly. And so we're hegemonically doing it to ourselves. Not only do we do it, and what is it, Fahrenheit 451? I think that was the movie where there's the screen in the background all the time. In every room you went to, the screen was on. That's what it is. And I have to admit, coming up here the first month, we were on the TV, listening, and the stomach aches and the headaches and the lack of ability to eat, sleeping for 2 hours. I mean, the news became the poison worse than the pandemic.
Yeah.
Who are your
definitely.
students, Shirley?
I sometimes teach undergrads, and I had a class of 400 last year, that in person.
Good.
But I teach the same things I teach. I teach about social justice, that kind of thing. And I literally had 20 students. I'd gone through 6 weeks. We'd done queer, LGBTQ stuff. We'd done women's liberation, whatever. We'd done people of color. We'd done Islamophobia. Everybody was fine. 400 students, happy, merry, everyone's fine. Kind of a mixed group for Calgary. And then I started one day and talked about white privilege. Within 10 minutes, I had 20 people stand up, turn their backs to me, walk out. The rest stayed and shouted me down. And I had people in the front, in the middle. These were the people at the top, starting to cry, shaking because they were so embarrassed. White girls with little blonde hair apologizing to the person of color next to them for the guys up above. And I had an absolute kind of a white supremacy, white privilege duel. We had to call the police to come in.
No.
I mean, it was like this
God.
insane. So I teach about whiteness, and that's something. And then now
That's disturbing. It's disturbing on many levels. Yes.
And since then, they've had me online teaching for 2 years. So I think they're worried. But I teach writing now, because I think that this thing upset the faculty so much. And I really didn't mean, I thought teaching about white privilege would be easy peasy, and it wasn't. And then I find out that there's a group here called the Sons of Odin, who are
that doesn't sound good.
He's the Nordic god of war.
Yeah, and they march. And when we used to do when I was doing speeches at City Hall, especially when the Syrians had come in and the Palestinians, I work a lot with the Muslim community, and they would come and line up around the parameter of where we were speaking. And they're very scary guys. And they had actually infiltrated, some of their people had infiltrated my class. So that was a pretty heavy duty thing. And I'm sort of glad they stuck me on Zoom. So I was an original Zoomite, only because I was sentenced here.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we had on Myrna Lashley, who is a psychologist and teaches at McGill and is Black. And she wrote an article in the Gazette, and it was over Legault saying, there's no systemic racism in Quebec. Anyway, Myrna wrote this article and said white people have to deal with their whiteness. Well, she got the exact same kind of blowback. People were furious. And Myrna took a lot of hell for it, and it really took a toll. But she said, I'm sorry, I have to tell people to look in the mirror.
It's going to have to come out in the wash.
Yes.
Eh?
It's just, we do have to face our whiteness. I've got a son who is 31 years old, and I'm not afraid every day that when he walks out in the street, he's going to be shot. There was an article in the New York Times of a guy, when he was going to college, got a call, an African American, got a call from his dad every night, and he didn't think about it. He said, my dad loves me. And the dad later told him, he said, I was worried about you during the day as a young black man.
And,
I don't have to think about that.
No, and it is. And the other thing, though, and this is the thing, that there's a preciousness about white people. And that's my little blonde students in the front that started to cry. Oh, what do I do? Oh, I'm so sorry. Like talking to people of color. And it's this, there's a narcissistic kind of whiteness. Robin DiAngelo calls it fragility. And you can't be precious about, we're not trying to be sorry. We just need to get better. We just need to be more equitable and stop this bullshit and just move on. But instead, we're getting people who are in this cocoon of, oh, I'm a terrible person, poor me, sorry, sorry, sorry. And it gets us once more, it's the liberal mentality of just, I'm sorry that it's going to make a difference. And it's not. It's like you get out and you call it out when you see it. You shut the fuck up so other people have a chance to talk. And you just give back what you've taken so much of. And you don't have to be sorry for being white. You don't have to be sorry for being a male.
It's not about you, right?
Yeah, and that's not the exact. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that's one of the very. In fact, I'd written a book called White Rain and I used it because back in the day that was also a shampoo. But White Rain, and it was written in the mid-90s about what was happening with whiteness. And a lot of people of us started to write at that time. And then people just kind of forgot. And it seemed like everything's okay. And I'll never forget, David, I was sitting at CBC waiting to do a hit with you. And in the other corner, in one of the other offices, Angela Davis was being interviewed by one of the CBC interviewers. And I'll never forget the interviewer said to her, well, Dr. Davis, now that Obama had just been elected, and he said, now that we're in a post-racist period, how would you like to talk about that? And it's like, this was like 2009. There is no post-racist period in a country that had slaves for 400 years. And Canada, Canada blackness is a bit different because we're not looking at a population of enslavement. We're looking at people who've migrated from the islands, from different countries. Some are descendants of slaves, but we're still not admitting this kind of embedded thing that I don't know if it's biblical. I don't know if it's just white people woke up first, and so the next time they saw somebody of color back in the cave days, they just decided to hate them. I don't know if it's when we were kids in English and we're taught poetry, and we're taught that white means good, black means bad. I don't know what the insidious imprint is on the world, but the reality is we have got to make a difference, and it's not post-racial. I don't know if it ever is going to be post-racial.
Well, listen, on that happy note, actually, not kidding aside. It was great. We do have to talk about it, damn it. And you're right. We, the white folks, we got to listen. So good stuff.
Thank you for making us listen, Shirley. Appreciate your time.
Well, I'm loud enough that you have to listen. It's sort of hard to
miss.
That's
it. Yeah, it is.
That's okay.
That's
loud.
fine.
Loud is nice. Sorry. Thank you. Excuse me. Oh, I love you. Big hug, sweetheart.
Thank you, Shirley.
Bye,
all the
guys.
best.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too. I'll call you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
That, by the way, is Shirley Steinberg.
Yes, it is. She's a piece of work. That girl from Baltimore.
When you get her, if you can get her to come out of her shell, she can kind of get you some stuff.
Because I had to do a lot of prodding. I really had to prod her to get her off.
But that's the best. That's in terms of broadcasting protocol or whatever you want to call it. That's a guest right there, right? You just open the door, you turn on the microphone, and shoom, and
Yeah.
you're off, and you can talk
Yeah.
about anything, sharp as a tack, articulate, funny,
Very
outstanding.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she says what she thinks. And
Yeah.
she's had enough experience in education and smarts. When she says something, she says a lot, but boy, it's worthwhile. Yeah, I love her.
Well, I'll post the links to her page at U of C, and she's involved in a
Right.
couple of other projects, and there's a book in there too we didn't talk about, so you'll see all of that on the links. And
I've got goosebumps.
she's at it.
God,
She's at it all
I
the time.
got goosebumps. University of Calgary is bigger than McGill. University of Calgary now has
It's
40,000 students.
Big school, big school. Yeah. So, and Calgary's a nice town. It's a great town. I Shirley was speaking tongue in cheek there, I think, in large part, but
Well, it's not the Calgary of 40 years ago, that's for sure.
No,
It's not the
no.
Calgary of 20 years
Things
ago.
have changed a lot, and Albertans have a lot going for them, Mr. Kenny notwithstanding. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we
All
got
right.
some pips in our provincial governments, don't
we
we?
certainly do.
Okay, so tomorrow,
Tomorrow, Dan
Canada
Lexer.
Day.
Yeah,
And
Dan Lexer will be in to talk. We'll talk radio. Dan is a poet. He's a writer. He's done stand-up. He's a voiceover guy. He hosts radio programs. He's a father. I think the last time I saw him, he wasn't
Yeah.
a dad. He's a dad too. So we'll talk about that. And,
Okay, I called him a CJAD alum. I think he still appears on AD.
he's
doesn't he?
still. I think he's still
Yeah.
co-hosting a show there, and he's done.
Yeah.
He's done many different things. So he'll be. We will regale one another with broadcasting stories and strange little ditties tomorrow.
All right. Well, I thought I'm going to get a coffee now because I
Okay.
didn't before because I thought I'd better be up for Shirley, and then that's why I didn't have a coffee.
Okay. Are you okay? You were coughing there. Is he?
Oh no, not a big. She makes me laugh, and
Of course,
you know,
that couch behind you hasn't been vacuumed since Coolidge was alive. I think. Right?
yeah, since Coolidge was the 7th Prime Minister of Canada. Okay, pal.
À demain.
Take care.